Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi. Boleh dengar ke suara saya? Boleh ya?
Boleh.
Alright. Okay, first of all I would like to apologize sebab it is sometimes okay the line is not that good in FSG Shah Alam. So hopefully if it gets if I am encountering any problem, please let me know. Kadang-kadang saya tak perasan saya bercakap, kemudian later baru saya perasan I was on my own, semua orang tak dengar. Tapi sekarang okay ya, clear? Alright, okay, before I begin, I would like to thank Pusat Asasi UiTM Dengkil for inviting me to give a talk to our foundation student, Asasi student. Thank you Dr. Kaniza dari bersama kita hari ini. I can also see that we have Nur Akmal, our lecturer in Asasi. Thank you for being with us today. So without further ado, I would like to begin my lecture. But before I begin, sikit lagi, saya just nak tanya student lah if you can give me any response. Student semua ada di kampus ke di rumah?
Certain dekat kampus, certain dekat rumah.
Oh, ada yang di kampus, ada yang di rumah ya? Oh, okay. InsyaAllah. We are still on online and distance learning mode. So most of our students are at home. However, there are a few students who, especially those who are in final year, and also those who are currently latihan industri. Okay, menjalani latihan industri dekat kampus. Tapi kampus sekarang sunyi lah. Di sikit-sikit je student. Alright, so let me share my slide with you. Okay, boleh nampak slide saya yang ni, chapter 7?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, so saya sebenarnya kalau lecture ni saya tak suka my lecture to be too formal. So because what is important about lecturing is that I want the student to get the hang of what I'm going to discuss, what I'm going to tell the student. And if you get 60% of what we will be discussing today, that will be good enough. So sebab student selalunya kalau bio ni dia rasa macam susahnya bio, banyak nak kena menghafal kan. Sebenarnya bukan macam tu. Bio tak perlu menghafal sangat. Kita memang perlu menghafal. But then again, you have to have a specific technique or you have to make it interesting. Okay, kita sendiri sebagai student ya, have to make it interesting so that it will stay longer in your mind. Okay, benda-benda yang kita belajar hari ni, yang you dengar daripada saya hari ni, hopefully will be there for the longest of time. Okay, kita senang nak ingat. Okay, dan bila kita senang nak ingat, senang nak recall bila soalan exam nanti lah. Alright, so today's lecture is on biodiversity. This is a very interesting topic for me and I hope it will be a very interesting one for you as well. Okay, dan very easy to follow through. Okay, let's look at our learning outcomes. Okay, kalau tengok learning outcomes ni pengsan kan banyak. Okay, don't worry about that. I always tell my students not to worry about learning outcomes. As you go along the lecture, you will get the hang of it. You will automatically reach the outcomes of the learning process. Okay, I won't go into details for this one, but saya akan baca secara sepintas selalu lah. Alright, so towards the end of this lecture, I hope all of the students will be able to state the hierarchical classification. Okay, boleh atau mampu atau berupaya untuk menyatakan the classification based on the hierarchical classification yang dibuat ataupun orang pertama lah yang come up with this types of classification is Linnaeus. Okay, that's why we call it Linnaean classification. And then we have another classification system. This is based on domain system, okay, by Woos. And then students should be able to explain the concept of binomial nomenclature, okay, state the components in a different system of classification, and then describe the levels and examples of biodiversity, the importance of biodiversity, factors that threat biodiversity, and also what are the action that has been taken and should be taken to conserve the biodiversity. All right, let's look at the taxonomy, right? So we have two parts in this lecture, okay, taxonomy and also biodiversity. Let's look at the taxonomy. Student asasi masa SPM, masa sekolah menengah pernah kan belajar pasal taxonomy, right? Pernah ke student? Pernah. So you have heard the term before and you at least have an idea what taxonomy is all about kan. Cuma hari ni we will look into details, okay, a little bit more on taxonomy. Mungkin dah belajar dulu, mungkin sama masa sekolah menengah, mungkin lebih sikit atau sebaliknya. Alright, what is taxonomy? Taxonomy is scientific discipline concerned with naming and classifying organism. So if you look around you, okay, kalau you kat rumah ke, dekat college ke dekat campus, you will see that there are different types of plants and different types of animals around you. So how do we come up with the names? Okay, sekarang tak apalah sebab orang dah bagi nama kan, kita dah tahu ni pokok apa, ni haiwan apa. But if you are being sent ataupun kita tiba-tiba dibuang, dihantar ke let's say a Galapagos Island, or you are being sent to Madagascar, where you find animals or plants that you have not seen before. Tiba-tiba ada haiwan yang macam kambing, tapi bukan kambing sebab dia kecil sikit. Tapi nak kata kucing, bukan kucing yang macam gitu. How do you come up with the names? Okay, and how do you classify the organism? Okay, this is all based on the taxonomy. So macam mana kita nak namakan haiwan yang kita tak pernah tengok tu adalah kita kena ikut apa yang kita akan belajar sekejap lagi lah, alright? So when it comes to naming and classifying organisms, okay, the most important person in this is Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, sangat berjasa. Okay, in the 18th century, Carolus Linnaeus developed a way to name and also to organize the species. Right, macam mana dia buat? We have two key features in this system. The first one is binomial nomenclature. Kenapa kita panggil binomial? Bi means two. Okay, nomenclature is penamaan. So how do you name animal or plants, okay, living organisms ni, okay, you name it based on two names. Okay, two names tu apa? Kita ada genus and also kita ada epithets. Okay, the second one is hierarchical classification. This is how you classify. This is how you put the organism into their own class or their own category. Alright, let's look at an example here. Okay, we have Panthera pardus. Okay, Panthera pardus is a binomial nomenclature. Kenapa? Sebab kita ada dua. We have the genus over here and then we have the epithet over here. Called pardus. Pardus is the epithet. Panthera is the genus. So when we are, let's say yang kita kata tadi kita jumpa haiwan yang macam kambing tapi bukan kambing kan. Okay, if you look at that animal, first of all, you need to decide which genus that animal belongs to. Tapi sebelum pergi kepada genus, kita kena pergi yang atas lagi sebelum genus kan. You belajar pasal hierarchical tu, sekejap lagi kita pergi ke next slide, we look at that one. But for any living organisms, okay, their names has to be in two parts, genus and epithet. Panthera pardus, Panthera is the genus, Pardus is the epithet. Kalau you tengok TV ataupun you baca articles online kan, ataupun surat khabar online, you might notice that scientific names are being written wrongly, okay, incorrectly. Contohnya Panthera pardus, dia akan tulis P huruf besar untuk Panthera, P huruf besar for Pardus. That is totally wrong. Okay, you have to write scientific name in their own correct way. It has to be italics. Okay, all of this has to be italics. Kalau tak italics, okay, we underline the name. Okay, underline the name. Kalau kita tulis tangan lah. Tapi sekarang semua pakai komputer, you just italics. Alright. Dan tak boleh huruf besar untuk genus, huruf besar untuk epithet. Even though it's a special name. Okay, special tu maksudnya untuk nama tempat, nama orang, nama khas lah, nama khusus kita guna huruf besar. But for scientific name, even though it's a special, even though it is categorized under special, still the epithet has to be written in smaller case, okay? Panthera pardus. Alright, I have a few examples here. This is animals from the same genus. Kan, kalau orang Melayu ni dia panggil apa semua haiwan yang banyak-banyak, empat jenis ni? Kita panggil harimau je kan? Kecuali yang nombor 2 ni kita panggil singa kan? Betul tak? Ke kita panggil terus nama harimau dia yang betul? Harimau belang, harimau bintang, harimau apa tu yang the jaguar ni orang Melayu panggil apa? Harimau bintang kan? Leopard is harimau kumbang. Okay, ada harimau kumbang, harimau bintang. Tapi in general, okay, especially orang Melayu lah. Orang Melayu kita suka generalize kan? Generalize things kan? Because it will be much easier unless you would like to explain more, then you will go into details. For example, harimau, okay, harimau kumbang, harimau belang. But then we tend to use the word harimau. Similarly for science, okay, that yang kita kata common names tu, okay, is the genus. Okay, we have the leopard, Panthera pardus. We also have lion, African lion. We have tiger, we have jaguar. All of them are from the genus Panthera, but they are different because the epithet are different, meaning that they are of different species. Panthera pardus is an independent species compared to Panthera leo. Similarly for Panthera tigris, they are of different species. Bila different species tu maksudnya memang berbeza. So let's say yang saya suka bring you back to the hutan yang tadi yang kita kata jumpa haiwan yang macam kambing tu kan. If you look at that animals, okay, first you need to decide di family apa and then genus apa, okay? After that, okay, you might want to look at the similarity and the differences between that animal and other animal that looks similar. Okay, you have to decide whether they are of the same genus or different genus. Lepas tu macam mana nak tahu haiwan ni same species ke different species? Okay, if you have longer time, if you have time to be there for a long time, then you might want to see whether that animal are able to breed with individual that looks similar to them. Kalau dia boleh, orang kata they have an ability to dia punya term macam they are able to breed, okay, and once the breeding happen and dia punya youngs are successful, maksudnya survive, okay, sehingga besar, that means that they are of the same species. Okay, kalau dia bukan the same species, they are not able to breed, and if they do breed, okay, the youngs will not be able to survive sebab dia menghasilkan anak yang not fit to live. Okay, sebab ada haiwan yang walaupun dia species yang berbeza tapi jenis yang sama, accidentally, okay, somehow their mechanism match, okay, the mechanism match dia boleh membiak. Zaman dulu lah, this is a very rare cases, okay, but they will not be able to give birth to orang kata to a successful youngs. Anak lahir tapi mati macam tu ataupun cacat, dan dia takkan mampu orang kata macam carry on the genetics of the parents to the next generation. Tapi rule of thumb for animals, okay, usually if they are not from the same species, they will not be able to interbreed. Memang tak boleh. Okay, kalau you tengok kucing kan, ada kucing Parsi, ada kucing, saya tak tahu sangat babak kucing ni kan, bukan peminat kucing. But I do know that kita ada kucing yang bulu botak tu kan, macam apa? Sphinx kan. And then we have kita ada kucing yang bulu lebat apa semua tu kan. Even though all of them are felines, okay, from the Felix family, tiger pun feline juga tau. Okay, tapi domestic cats ni, they are from the feline families, Felix catus. Tapi different species of cats, they will have different names, okay, different scientific names, different species names. So they will not be able to breed. Tak boleh macam kucing parsi yang bulu lebat tu, ataupun yang British short hair, macam tu, you nak kacukkan dengan kucing biasa, that is almost not possible. Boleh, tapi dia tidak menghasilkan yang seperti parents ataupun outcome that you are expecting. Okay, so tapi sekarang dengan advancement in technology, those are possible to do, tapi sebenarnya perlukan banyak ni lah ethics. That's why sekarang ada jawatan kuasa untuk ethics lah. Kita tak boleh simply nak kacukkan this and that kan. Kalau tidak sedap lah kan, kita boleh pilih macam kalau anak ataupun manusia, kita boleh pilih nak anak yang mata biru ke, hidung mancung ke, suka hati kan. No, that is not possible because we are actually putting lives at risk. Okay, tak boleh sesuka hati. Kalau haiwan tu mungkin ada, haiwan tu boleh tapi kena melalui jawatan kuasa ethics yang ketat lah. Alright, so far okay tak? Boleh faham ke lecture saya ni? Senang je kan?
Boleh.
Okay, good. Right, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, next slide is on hierarchical classification. So yang ini adalah how do you classify organisms. So kalau kita duduk dalam hutan tu, there are thousands of different types of animals, okay, and also plants. Kita sebut types lah dalam bahasa biasa ya, but kalau kita ni pelajar sains, try to avoid using common terms. Sebab when you are using scientific terms, that will help you to memorize or to feel closer, okay, at heart with the things that you are learning. Contohnya macam saya selalu pesan dengan student saya, jangan panggil kucing, panggil Felix Catus. Okay, kalau nak makan jagung, pergi pasar malam ke pergi pasar, nak beli jagung, jangan cakap nak beli jagung dengan kawan you. You cakap, belikan aku Ziamis, macam gitu. Walaupun macam bunyi macam mengada, tapi it helps you. Okay, you buat sesama kawan lah, janganlah buat dengan orang yang kita tak biasa kan. Okay, sesama kawan yang belajar benda yang sama. Try to incorporate things that you have learned in class, okay, to your daily life. Macam contohnya nak pergi toilet, selalu kita kata, oh I nak pergi kencing lah, jangan pergi kencing. You guna istilah sains yang you belajar. Kan? Alright. Okay, now for hierarchical classification, let's look at the image that I have here. Alright, it begins with the top one. Okay, yang paling besar sekali. We have domains, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Nampak macam banyak tapi senang je nak ingat kan? Alright, yang domain saya tak payahlah, memang sangat senang. Okay, starts from kingdom. We have kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. K, P, C, O, F, G, S. Rasa-rasa macam banyak tak benda ni? Nak kena ingat satu-satu. Banyak tak? Saya nampak ada orang anggut tapi tak bunyi suara. Okay, so kita ada
Banyak.
banyak kan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Kalau saya suruh hafal, you pun hafal lah. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Tersepak terlupa dah. Kingdom class dulu ke phylum dulu macam gitu. So kita tak nak. Okay, try to avoid memorizing that way. Okay, what you have to do, I would suggest lah, bukan you kena buat, tapi saya suggest you make something fun out of it. Contohnya macam kita start dengan phylum lah. Okay, domain kingdom tu sangat senang. Okay, kingdom tu of course lah alam kan, bahasa Melayu alam. Alam haiwan, alam tumbuhan macam gitu. So we start with phylum. Alright, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species adalah P, C, O, F, G, S. Okay, P, C, O, F, G, S. How to make it easier for you to remember? Kalau saya buatlah benda-benda yang mengarut-mengarut kan. Contohnya kalau P tu saya buat pergi, C tu cari, pergi cari oren, tapi tu tak kira, okay. Tapi guru besar sentap, macam tu. Pergi cari oren tapi guru besar sentap. So bila you ada pergi cari oren tapi guru besar sentap tu, it will be much easier for you to remember, okay. Phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Tapi kalau you rasa it will be much easier for you to memorize phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, then it's up to you. buatlah apa cara sekalipun as long as it stays longer in your mind. Make it fun, make it funny, make it silly. Kadang-kadang kita buat benda tak berkait pun it will help you to easily memorize things without you putting a lot of effort on it. Alright, so this is the hierarchical classification. Okay, apa yang kita belajar tadi, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species tu, that is actually a taxonomic unit. Okay, that is what we call taxonomic unit ataupun unit taxonomy. Alright, so kalau saya suruh ulang kan, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species ni boleh ingat tak? Rasa-rasa boleh ingat tak?
Semua boleh.
Boleh.
Semua boleh.
Boleh kan? Orang asasi memang pandai-pandai semua kan. Saya dulu pernah mengajar asasi, I think let me see. Saya mengajar 2 tahun di Pusat Asasi Sains UKM. Kemudian saya mengajar di Shah Alam ni, zaman dulu-dulu ada asasi di Shah Alam. Saya mengajar ketika dasar saya 2 tahun juga dan memang sudah asasi pandai-pandai lah. Memang dah pandai-pandai. So you are cream of the cream. So you better stay on top, okay? So kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species is very easy for you to memorize. Just keep on repeating the word. Okay, just keep on repeating the word, then you will get the hang of it. Alright, so this is an example of the application of the hierarchical taxonomy. Alright, kita ada ke atas kali ni Panthera pardus. It's easier for us because Panthera pardus has been named, has been identified, has been classified, so it's easy. Tapi kalau kita start dengan haiwan yang kita tak tahu, tak ada nama lagi, so you have to start from the very beginning. Okay, from the very beginning kita start dengan kingdom lah. Sebenarnya dia start dengan domain lagi, tapi tak apa, kita start dengan kingdom, alam tu. Dia apa? Okay, animalia ke plantae? Of course, it's animalia kan? Okay, so kingdom animalia. Phylum apa? Phylum Chordata because it has backbones. Chordata is inilah bertulang belakang. Okay, this is chordates animal. So phylum Chordata. Class Mammalia. Sebab apa? Sebab dia beranak. Okay, dia bukan reptilia. Dia bukan amphibians. Okay. And then order Carnivora because they are carnivore. Family Felidae because they are feline. Genus Panthera, species Panthera pardus. So it's easier because we already have Panthera pardus named and classified. But if you come across animals or plant that you have not seen before and it has not been named, then you have to start from the beginning. Kena kajilah satu-satu ciri-ciri dia tu. Okay, kita nak tahu dia ada tulang belakang ke tak ada tulang belakang, whether they are mammals or reptiles, whether they are carnivorous or omnivorous, semua tu nak kena observe. Okay, observe. That's why kalau you, let's say you pergi dalam hutan, masa tu you dah jadi student PhD ke, or you are a lecturer, or you are a researcher, then you come across animals or plants that has not been named and you successfully name the species, okay, nama you akan orang kata you are actually achieving orang kata huge achievement lah, okay, obtaining huge achievement sebabnya orang yang namakan spesies baru ni, especially species yang has a lot of contribution, probably a flagship species to the area or very important species to the area, selalunya kita akan menjadi orang yang sangat relevan dalam bidang ni. In fact, ada a few researchers yang menamakan spesies baru yang dijumpa tu dengan nama dia ataupun nama orang besar dekat kawasan tu ataupun dengan nama lokasi tu, okay, to mark the achievement. Kalau kan nama saya Asmida kan, mungkin saya jumpa Panthera lain tapi yang bukan Panthera pardus, bukan Panthera tigris, memang lain, totally lain, tak ada lagi di dunia ni. I am the only one who name it. Mungkin saya nak guna nama Panthera asmidanis, contohnya. Okay, sebab saya nak orang kata put some recognition on the achievement. So kalau macam tu, that is actually a huge achievement, and I have known a professor in one of the public university in Malaysia. He successfully classified a name masa tu ni pokok pakma. Pokok pakma tahu ke? Saya guna bahasa Melayu. Gina pakut Pakma, P-A-K-M-K, P-K-A-P-A-K-M-A.
Tahu.
Pokok apa? Pokok yang besar bau busuk tu?
Rafflesia. Pokok Pakma.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, researcher tu dia jumpa spesies Rafflesia that has not been named before. Dia memang baru, memang spesies baru. And then his findings tu dikira sebagai huge achievement in the field of Rafflesia. Okay, so dia dapat very good recognition. Sebab bukan senang nak bagi nama ni. Dan bukan senang, bagi nama is one thing. To come across that types of species is also rare. So for him or for her to be able to find that species tu, kita kata macam huge findings lah. Okay, satu pencapaian yang sangat hebat. Alright, so we have looked at a hierarchical classification. Now we look at different system, okay, under classification. We have 5 kingdom classification. Sebenarnya ada banyak, kita ada 6 kingdom, 5 kingdom, we also have 3 kingdom classification. So let's look into a few of it. Okay, we have 5 kingdom classification system developed by Whittaker in 1969. Okay, 5 kingdom tu apa? We have Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Okay, if you look at the image here, this is what we have. Saya suka kalau kita start daripada yang paling kecil lah. Okay, we have protists, okay, monerans, fungi, plants and also animals, right? Terpulang, ada student suka daripada yang besar dulu, ada student suka daripada kecil, whichever makes it easier for you. Alright? So this one, okay, 5 kingdom classification, bila kita sebut pasal different classification system, okay, you have to remember, macam kalau if you have a pen with you and a paper, tulis di atas paper tu or on your phone, 5 kingdom sama dengan Whittaker, okay, dalam kurungan 1969. And then 5 kingdom tu you kena ingat lah, okay, Protists, Monera, Fungi, Plants, Plantae, Animalia. And then you ada lagi satu nak panah kat situ, okay, based on morphological observation. What is morphology? Morphology is struktur luaran, okay, external features. Kalau struktur dalaman tu, internal tu, dia bukan morphology, dia adalah morphology, dia ada physiology, okay, and then kita ada lagi satu lagi anatomy yang lebih dalam lah. Okay, so morphology is luaran. Alright, so this is the classification proposed or developed by Whittaker yang kita kata ada 5 kingdom. Okay, Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. Okay, this is an examples of it. Alright, macam mana they come up with the names. Okay, I won't go into details for this one. Nanti dah habis lecture saya petang-petang karang dah relax sikit sambil makan pisang goreng tu. Okay, tengok graph ni. Tengok table ni. Okay, kena tengok this table just to get an idea what the table is all about. Okay, apa yang saya ajar is one thing, what you learn on your own is another thing. So selalunya apa yang kita belajar sendiri tu, dia lagi mudah nak ingat. Okay, much easier for you to remember and much easier for you to understand lah. Okay, kalau tak faham nanti boleh tanya pensyarah kat sana, boleh juga contact saya lah if you need to do that. Alright, and then we have 6 kingdom classification. Okay, this one was developed by Woos in 1977. Alright, what makes a system by Woos different from the one developed by Whittaker? Alright, so if you look at this one, we have eubacteria and also archaeobacteria on which we do not have it from Whittaker's system. Perasan tak? Yang tadi tak ada kan eubacteria, archaeobacteria, tak ada kan?
Tak ada.
Tadi 5 je kan?
Ya.
Yang ni ada tak? Protists, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia ada?
Ada.
Ada, okay. So yang tadi tu ada 5. Protists, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. What is the other one?
Monera.
Monera, that's correct. Okay, pandai lah you all. So you dah belajar benda ni? Dah belajar yang sebelum ni?
Belajar sikit.
Sikit kan? Tapi masa SPM ada?
Ada perkenalkan tapi tak masuk soalan.
Oh, I see. Tapi at least you boleh ingat yang slide saya sebelum tu. Oh, ada kat dalam ni. Patutlah. Betul pandai. Okay. Never mind. At least you ingat lah. Alright. So we do not, in six kingdom classification, we do not have Monera. Okay, no Monerans anymore. Monerans so maksud haiwan yang classified under Monera. Okay, no Monerans. Instead, okay, we replace Monerans with different types of bacteria. Okay, kalau you tengok gambar sini, okay, we have kingdom Archaebacteria and also the bacteria itself, which is the Eubacteria. So ini adalah a totally different kingdom altogether. Okay, berbeza. Kalau bahasa Melayu dia alam yang berbeza. Okay, benda living organism yang sangat berbeza. Right, even though they are minute, okay, they are very small, they are minute. Both are minute, sama juga macam protists are also minute for some. But all three of these are of different kingdoms, especially true for Archaebacteria and also the Eubacteria. Sangat berbeza, okay? So this six kingdom classification system are based on evolution and molecular genetics. Kalau yang Whittaker tu, yang 5 kingdom tu, they are based on morphological character. So nampak beza, so dekat kertas yang you conteng-conteng tu, tulis 5 kingdom Whittaker morphological. 6 kingdom Woos molecular. Alright, and then tulislah yang 5 kingdom tu apa dia punya kingdom dalam tu. 6 kingdom apa kingdom dia. So kena ingatlah the difference is that 6 kingdom, okay, yang 5 tadi tu, the Monerans are being divided into 2 called Archaea and also Eubacteria. So that's why dia jadi 6 daripada yang asal dia 5 tu lah. Okay, next slide is further discussion on Eubacteria and Archaebacteria. Yang ini saya tak nak pergi satu, but I want to show the most significant differences between Eubacteria and also Archaebacteria. First one, for Eubacteria, they have peptidoglycan in their cell wall. Okay, for Archaebacteria, they do not have peptidoglycan. So bahasa senang dia adalah Eubacteria ni yang kompleks, Archaebacteria ni yang simple. Okay? Macam mana kita nak tahu dia simple ke tak simple? Macam kalau you belajar prokaryotes and eukaryotes kan, you tahu prokaryotes is the simple ones. Betul kan? Eukaryote is the complex one. Ingat tak belajar pasal prokaryotes and eukaryotes?
Ingat.
So prokaryotes, okay, prokaryote tu macam a very simple bacteria tu, tapi bila kita ada haiwan that is that is eukaryotes. So when it comes to, sebab bila yang Archaebacteria and Eubacteria ni dia macam pertindihan tau between the two. So how are we going to further understand the differences between these two is that kita kena ingat Archaebacteria is the simple ones. Okay, contoh dia kita ada thermophiles, halophiles and methanogens. These types of living organisms, they are very robust. Kalau kita tengok thermophiles ni adalah minute organisms yang duduk dalam air yang boleh hidup, okay, yang boleh hidup or able to survive or inhabit an area with extreme temperature. Kalau you pergi, kalau you tengok lava gunung berapi, kan sangat panas kan? The bubbling and then the temperature is very hot but dia bukan air je. Okay, air and lots of other minerals in it. So therefore, the temperature of lava is very, very high. However, there are some thermophiles that are able to live in it. Ada haiwan, kita tak panggil haiwan lah, living organism that are able to live in that. Similarly for underwater thermophiles ni. Kalau you tengok movie orang putih tu kan ada macam submarine masuk ke dasar laut, kemudian dia pergi tempat gelap, kemudian ada air, memang gelap lah kan, dia kena pakai submarine tu akan suluh lampu and then tiba-tiba nampak macam titik-titik. That samples, if you bring it to the lab and look under the microscope, you will see that there are living organisms called thermophiles in it. Okay, tempat boiling water tu dia boleh hidup. Okay, kalau other types of living organism of other kingdom memang tak boleh survive lah, mati. Similarly to halopiles tu more on haiwan yang survive or inhabits an area or environment with high salinity. Okay, and then we have methanogens, kawasan yang tinggi methane. Kalau haiwan lain dah mati dia boleh. Okay, this is a different types of this is a totally different kingdom called Archaeobacteria. Dia sangat simple tapi sangat robust. Okay, and going further into that, we have Eubacteria. Ini bakteria biasa. Bakteria yang biasa yang kita tengok, yang kita panggil bahasa biasa kita panggil kuman tu kan. Sebenarnya they are categorized into Eubacteria. Alright, so senang je nak ingat. Archaea sebab dia A tu yang mula-mula sekali kan, simple and robust. Eubacteria is the bacteria yang kita kenal sekarang. Okay, they are not simple. Okay, they are much more complex compared to Archaeobacteria. So this is two different kingdoms. Previously categorized under Monera, later being divided into Eubacteria and also Archaeobacteria. Boleh faham ya? Setakat ini boleh follow?
Boleh.
Okay, good. Yang ini samalah. Yang ini kita tengok yang Linnaeus ni, Whitaker, Woos, kita ada banyak tu saya kata tadi kan, we have different classification systems, but if you get 3 out of this lot ni, okay, then that will be good. Okay, cukuplah kalau you tahu 5 kingdom, 6 kingdom, 3 kingdom tu cukup. Okay, kalau nak lebih lagi tambah ilmu boleh tengok dekat sini, but do not need to memorize. Alright, ni yang saya kata 3 kingdom tu lah. Okay, also by Woos in 1990. So agak terbaru lah 1990 compared to the previous one 1970 something, 80 something kan. Alright, the 18 something. Okay, this one based on molecular biology. Okay, categorized under 3 domains only: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Alright, the domain system is above the kingdoms levels, but dia guna domains tu. Right? Yang tadi kita tengok at kingdoms, sekarang kita tengok at domains. Okay? So yang inilah yang saya mention tadi, we have 2 domains, archaea, okay, bacteria, and also eukaryota, which is the eukaryotes. Okay, the 6th kingdom from archaea is Archaeobacteria. From the bacteria itself, Eubacteria, and from eukaryota or eukaryotes, we have the remaining 4. So total is still 6 kingdom, but classified or categorized into 3 domains. Okay. This is another example on the classification system. Nanti student boleh tengok sendirilah, ni contoh-contoh yang kita ada lah. Alright. Okay. So we have looked at the history, and also we have looked at how you classify and how you name or identify the species or the living organism. Now we want to understand why is it so important. Penting ke tak kita belajar taksonomi ni? Taksonomi tu perlu ke tak? Kalau tak ada nama, kalau tak ada nama tak boleh ke yang kata yang jumpa haiwan dekat apa tu Madagascar yang macam kambing tapi bukan kambing tu kan? Kalau kita tak bagi nama kat dia boleh ke? Kita tak classify pun, biarlah dia. Kita panggil je lah haiwan yang macam kambing, tak boleh?
Tak boleh.
Tak boleh.
Semua makhluk layak ada nama.
Semua makhluk ada nama, betul kan? Macam kita jugalah kan. Kita lahir seorang anak, kita bagi nama. Takkan kita nak panggil, kita letak anak kita anak 1, anak 2, anak 3 kan. We would like to acknowledge kan anak yang kita lahirkan tu. So how do you acknowledge them? Okay, you give nice name to the baby. Okay, kadang-kadang nama tu pun commemorate something. Dia lahir waktu hari raya, pada hari raya you buat nama Aidilfitri kan. Kalau perempuan Aidilfitriah ke macam itulah. So you want to acknowledge the children, the child. Okay, the baby. Sama je macam haiwan. Kita nak acknowledge di haiwan tu. Kita nampak haiwan tu macam kambing tapi bukan kambing. So kena juga tengok, does that animal belongs to the same family dengan kambing tu or not? Okay, kalau bukan, kita masuk dalam family yang dia belong. Kita orang kata macam put the living organisms tu into the place that they deserve. Okay, So why is it important? First, to enable scientists to communicate efficiently. Selain yang acknowledgement tu lah. Enable scientists to communicate efficiently. Sebabnya kalau kita dekat Malaysia ni, kita panggil kambing, kambing lah. Tapi kalau you pergi India, dia tak panggil kambing. Kan dia ada bahasa dia sendiri. Kalau you pergi Scotland, dia pun ada nama dia sendiri untuk kambing tu. So it's going to be difficult kan kalau kita tak ada nama. Tak ada nama, one common name, it will be difficult. Kita sebut kambing, dia kata bukan kambing, dia sebut benda lain, so it will be difficult. So the easiest way is to use scientific names. So scientific names will be used all over the world. Contohnya kalau kita ada padi kan, easier, saya suka bagi contoh yang senang-senang. Oryza sativa tu sebenarnya bukan Oryza sativa. Okay, Oryza sativa tu dia it will be easier because once you state the name, everybody knows what you are referring to. Or when you say Panthera tigris, everybody knows what are you referring to. So semua orang sama, tak kira in India or in Scotland or in Malaysia. When we say Panthera tigris, okay, they will imagine, okay, they will know that you are referring to the tiger. Okay. So this will also avoid confusions, okay, as no two organism can have the same scientific name. Okay, no two organism, bukan two individuals, two organisms. Okay, two individuals lain. Let's say all of us are Homo sapiens. Okay, our species is named Homo sapiens. Me and you is different. Okay, me and you are two individuals, but we are of the same species. Okay, this will avoid confusion. It will also help in documentation, and we also help for us or for any other parties who develop strategies for protection and conservation. Bukan conversation ni salah ni. Okay, S patutnya. Conservation of endangered species. Okay. So itu gunanya nama tu, taxonomy tu. Why is it important? And it's not, and you cannot simply name or you cannot simply classify organism. You have to have the knowledge, okay, on the organism. You have to put them into the correct category. Kategori tu apa yang tadi tu lah, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species tu. Okay, you have to put them into the correct category. Then you are, kalau guna bahasa sains dia, correct taxonomic unit. Okay, into the correct taxonomic unit, then you will be able to name the organism. Right. So kita dah ada nama dah. Kita dah bagi nama. Haiwan-haiwan yang kita jumpa tu ada nama. Dekat sekitar kita pun ada nama. Okay. What are we going to do about it? Okay. We want to understand the relationship between one organism to another, one species to another, one family to another. Okay, macam ni kita nak faham. We use phylogenetic tree. Okay. Phylogenetic tree is a diagram which shows evolutionary relationship among organisms that have a common ancestor based upon similarities and differences in their physical or genetic characteristic. Panjang dia punya term kan, tapi don't worry, tengok gambar dulu. Alright, this is what I meant by phylogenetic tree. Okay, pernah dengar family tree tak? Kalau untuk manusia, family tree pernah dengar?
Pernah?
Agak-agak apa maksud family tree tu?
Menunjukkan keturunan.
Macam salah silah keturunan kan. Kita kat Malaysia ni, we are not into phylogenetic tree so much, okay? Tapi bukan phylogenetic tree, family tree so much. Tapi kalau dekat overseas tu dia sangat mementingkan family tree ni sebab dia nak trace nenek moyang dia tu daripada keturunan yang sama. That's why they carry, tapi easier for them lah kan, because they carry the same family name. Macam contohnya nama dia Phillips Archer. Okay, family name is Archer. So dia akan cari pakcik-pakcik dia yang semua nama Archer ni kan. Kemudian dia cari lagi atas lagi daripada pakcik-pakcik tu yang juga daripada Archer, yang kahwin dengan Archer. Dia buat semua tu sampai 5 generasi, 7 generasi, 10 generasi, sampailah dia tengok nenek-nenek moyang dia zaman dulu. Okay? And then they are very proud of their ancestors. Kita proud jugalah, but we are not into family tree macam orang putih lah. But it is still very important for you to know and to get to know members within your family tree. Paling-paling sikit pun sepupu, dua pupu tu mesti kena kenal. Kan zaman sekarang dia tak boleh lah macam dua pupu tak tahu, tak kenal dah sebab tak jumpa, tak apa, tak boleh. You have to keep that that relationship going. Alright, so if you look at the phylogenetic tree, okay, first you have to understand that they are coming from the same ancestor. The same ancestor ni bahasa Melayu dia nenek moyang sepunya. Bunyi macam kelakar kan, nenek moyang sepunya. But English dia senang, common ancestor. Dia datang daripada nenek moyang yang sama. Okay, contohnya macam kita lah. Kita ada moyang. Kita dah cicit lah kalau kita ada moyang kan. Yang cicit juga kepada moyang tu adalah siapa? Itu adalah saudara-saudara you lah. Saudara-saudara you yang sama level, yang the 5th generation tu. Okay, similar to this one. If you look at bacteria, okay, this is a totally different kingdom. And then we have Archaeobacteria and then we have Eukarya. Okay, all of these three are coming from the same ancestor, which is this one. Kita panggil node. Node ni dia punya apa? Tempat dia keluar cabang baru tu. Kalau pokok, tempat dia keluar cabang baru, dia start dengan nodes tu dulu dan pergi bercabang. Okay? So, this is the common ancestor, meaning that bacteria, Archaeobacteria and Eukarya, they share common ancestor. But for Archaeobacteria, kalau dekat sini, Archaeobacteria and Eukarya, okay, kalau kat sini dia share the common ancestor. Tapi kalau dekat sini, this is orang kata applies to Eukarya only. Okay, all the eukaryotes. Okay, eukaryotes only. Kalau if you look at different kingdoms that we have, contoh kat sini kan, we have Animalia, we have fungi, we have, ini semua yang besar-besar lah, yang walaupun ada yang kecil-kecil macam kan. This is the eukaryotes. Okay, eukaryotes ni ada yang besar, ada yang kecil. Okay, but still there are the complex organism. Okay, for eukaryotes, dia tu macam during the early existence of the earth, dan ni based on science ya, based on agama dia lain pula. Based on science, during the early existence of the earth, masa tu we do not have enough oxygen in our environment. Okay, due to that, we have lots of anaerobic bacteria. Okay, these anaerobic bacteria or anaerobic, okay, anaerobic bacteria, they release oxygen. Okay, because they are in abundance, okay, sebab dia banyak sangat ni, anaerobic bacteria ni, they release oxygen. At the same time, they increase the concentration of oxygen on Earth. Bila oksigen dah banyak, dah meningkat, okay, there is an emergence of aerobic bacteria. Masa tu ada bakteria-bakteria aja. Okay, and later on it gets into a much complex organisms. Lepas tu baru ada bakteria yang biasa yang kita tengok ni, okay, yang kita ada sini kita sekarang. And then lepas tu baru kita ada algae, baru kita ada lichens, baru kita ada herbs, baru kita ada fern, baru kita ada shrubs, and then baru kita ada pokok yang besar, ada pokok balak, semua tu. Okay, but the later one, yang complex one ni, only emerge at the later stage of the earth. Tapi dia emerge tu walaupun lambat, tapi dia evolves very very fast. That's why we have lots of different organisms, okay, at the moment. Alright, I want to go back to the previous slide. So let's go back to the tab. What is phylogenetic tree? Phylogenetic tree is a diagram that shows evolutionary relationship. Maksudnya perhubungan atau perkaitan based on evolution. Okay, among organisms that have a common ancestor based upon similarities and differences in their physical or genetic characteristics. Okay, this is phylogenetic tree. Okay, so each branch point represents the divergence of two evolutionary lineages from a common ancestor. Okay, to get a better understanding, if you look at domestic lizard yang dekat rumah tu, cicak tu, okay, ada tak haiwan lain yang macam cicak? Dia tak beritahu saya. Apa dia? Ada orang boleh jawab ke? Dia macam cicak. Ada tak? Ada kan?
Ada?
Contoh dia apa?
Buaya, biawak.
Pandai pun. Buaya, biawak kan. Kalau kita pergi overseas tu, salamander kan. Salamander tu memang lebih kurang sama lah. Cuma dia lebih lembab. Okay, tapi kalau kita sekitaran kita, buaya biawak tu macam cicak tapi dalam bentuk yang besar. Cicak ni kecil. Sama juga macam yang tengok lembu. Kalau kita tengok muka lembu tu, lepas tu kita tengok muka kuda, sama tak? Ada iras-iras tak?
Ada.
Kan? Ada iras-iras. Lepas tu you tengok muka tikus. Ada tak iras-iras dengan kuda? Muka dia je, jangan kat badan dia. Muka dia. Jenis
Tak ada.
Ada. Ada macam muncung sikit tu. Kalau you tengok dekat kalau you tengok capybara, memang iras-iras tikus tapi tikus yang besar.
Betul.
Tapi tikus dengan lembu dengan kuda, nanti you balik you tengok dekat internet pun you boleh tengok. There are some similarities to them, to the features. Okay, to the features. That's why this is what we call evolution. Tapi kalau you tengok in terms of molecular, memang berbeza lah. Okay, their genetic makeup are totally different. But there are some similarities. So kalau you trace back the phylogenetic tree of those types of animals yang saya sebut tadi, which is the mammals memang ada similarity antara dia. Okay, of course lah similarity dari segi boleh beranak, darah panas semua sama. Tapi if you look at the morphological character of mammals, memang dia ada banyak persamaan. Okay, having said that, there is also lots of differences. Banyak juga perbezaan. Macam saya cerita capybara and domestic rats tadi tu. Capybara tahu ke?
Tahu.
Capybara yang macam tikus tapi besar tu kan. For those who have been to Zoo Melaka, mungkin pernah tengok lah kat Zoo Melaka ada capybara. I think about 3 ke 5 ekor macam tu lah. Capybara ni dia macam tikus yang besar. Yang dia besar dia tu boleh mencapai sebesar kambing tu. Memang besar. Okay, tapi ada yang kecil lah tapi dia boleh mencapai sebesar kambing. So if you look at capybara is orang kata macam a maxi model of domestic rats. Macam sama tapi besarkan je. Okay, tapi if you look very closely, there will be lots of differences. Sebab tu dia bukan spesies yang sama. Different species, okay. So this is what we call evolutionary changes. Okay, evolutionary changes between living organisms. So that can be projected using phylogenetic tree. Apa dia phylogenetic tree tadi? Diagram. Okay, diagram yang menunjukkan apa?
Evolutionary relationship.
Okay, evolutionary diagram yang menerangkan evolutionary relationship between living organisms of common ancestor. Okay. So itu phylogenetic tree. So kita nak rehat sekejap lagi tapi sambung sikit je lagi. Alright. So we have 3 domains of life macam yang tadi yang kita dah bincang tadilah. Okay, eukaryotes, okay. Eukarya, archaea and also the bacteria. And then this one yang tadi juga kita belajar pasal hierarchical classification. Okay, and this one, bila kita dah tahu semua haiwan tu semua, we would like to know more or to understand more about biodiversity. Okay, so saya sambung a few more slides, kemudian kita having a break . We'll have a break. Right, biodiversity. Bio is, semua orang tahu kan maksud bio kan? Biologi, tahu kan maksud biologi kan? Bio means living. Okay, semua benda-benda hidup. Okay, bio. Diversity means diverse. Okay, kepelbagaian. So biodiversity, okay, is the variation among organisms. Okay, kepelbagaian. Okay, di kalangan benda-benda hidup ni, organisma ni. Alright, so if you look at this image here, okay, this is a common situation or common scene that you can see. Okay, benda-benda biasa. You pergi tasik, you tengok ada haiwan, ada insects, ada pokok, that is common. But if you sit there and think about all the living things that can be found within that area, and then you try to relate the relationship between each living things, okay, each living organism within the area, then you might come to a conclusion that kompleks sebenarnya perhubungan antara benda-benda hidup ni. Kita nampak macam dia okey je kan, sebab dia dah stabil. So if you look at this one, okay, we have the tortoise over here, we have underwater fish ni, fish kita ada fish besar, fish kecil. We have dragonfly, we have the deer, we have frog, we have ni apa dia ni macam apa yang nama haiwan ni yang ekor belah-belah hitam ni?
Rakun.
Apa dia? Raccoon. Raccoon pun very interesting kan. Dia ada dia ada other species that almost look similar to them. Kan, kumpulan-kumpulan skunk, kemudian kita ada raccoons, kemudian kita ada lagi satu lagi. Sama juga tapi ekor dia tak belang macam tu. So they are actually if you look at this image only, you can see that there are lots of variations among the species, and within the species you also have variations. Okay, kalau kita tengok katak pun, antara katak ni dengan katak yang satu lagi tak sama. Kalau you tengok ikan pun walaupun spesies sama, dia pun berbeza between them. Manusia pun sama, same Homo sapiens, same genus, but we are different from one another. So that is what we call variation within species, and also interspecies. Okay, intra and interspecies. Intraspecies within species, interspecies antara species. Okay, so this is what we call biodiversity, a variation among organism within an environment or within a population. Alright, so let's look at biodiversity in Malaysia. Okay, everybody knows, especially Malaysians lah. Okay, every Malaysian knows that Malaysia is known as or being acknowledged as biodiversity hotspot. Okay, apa maksud hotspot ni? Hotspot is a small area, okay, with numerous endemic species, a large number of endangered species and threatened species, and mostly located in tropical regions. So biodiversity hotspot ni adalah kawasan yang kecil yang mana ada pelbagai spesies, sangat-sangat banyak spesies dia tu. Dan walaupun dia spesies dia banyak, tapi bilangan setiap spesies tu sikit. And they are usually endangered or threatened. Itu kita panggil biodiversity hotspot. Sebab ada orang keliru, ada student keliru, dia ingat biodiversity hotspot ni kawasan yang orang kata high in biodiversity. No, that is not only that. Okay, biodiversity hotspot is a small area which contain high biodiversity. However, the diverse animals and plants within that area is low or a few in number, and they are usually endangered or threatened. Itu kita panggil biodiversity hotspots. Okay, so let's look into the terms. Okay, yang kita kata endemic tu, what does that mean? Endemic is local species that cannot be found anywhere else in the world, that cannot be found in any other area. Okay, dia ada kat situ je. Okay, kat situ je, dekat kawasan tu je, local area. Okay, and what does it mean by endangered? Endangered is species that is at risk of extinction. Maksudnya dia sangat-sangat hampir dengan kepupusan, dah sikit sangat dah. Alright, threatened is species that is likely to become endangered. Maksudnya spesies tu sekarang ada banyak lagi, tapi likely to become endangered. Kenapa? Dulu mungkin ada 3,000 individuals, okay, ataupun 3,000 ekor. Sekarang dia ada 300 ekor. So they are threatened. Even though 300 tu still banyak for that species of animal, they are being categorized under threatened animal sebab dia diambang kepupusan. So endemic can only be found within that area, endangered, risk of extinction, threatened, likely to become endangered. Okay, so let's look at 3 levels of biodiversity. We have species diversity, genetic diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Okay, So let's look at genetic diversity. Genetic diversity is a variety within species, among individuals within the given population, and among geographically separate population. So genetic diversity ni, saya suka bagi contoh manusia lah. If we look at Homo sapiens, okay, we Asian people are different with the orang kata Caucasians, kan? Orang-orang putih tu, the Caucasians, they are different from us. Their genetic makeup is different from ours. Even though both are Homo sapiens, but there is a variation between different population due to multiple factors. Okay, multi-factors. For example, the environment also plays role. Okay, and also benda-benda sekitar kita macam chemicals pun mempengaruhi, kan. Kita punya lifestyle will also affect, okay, your genes, right? So population with a bigger gene pool, okay, bigger gene pool means more different alleles of each gene have greater genetic diversity. That's why kita ni tak digalakkan kahwin sepupu, kan? Dalam bentuk dari segi sainsnya benda tu lah. We do not want our gene pool to be very restrictive. Okay, kita kahwin dengan orang yang tak ada pertalian saudara, their genetic is macam, there are lots of differences between our genetics and the one that has far distance relationship with us compared to the one which has close relationship with us. Kalau kita kahwin sepupu, gene kita lebih kurang sama dengan sepupu kita. So your gene pool is very restrictive. Okay, so when the gene pool is very restrictive, bukan bermaksud tak boleh breed. You can, because you are of the same species. But orang kata the diversity within that pool tu is very low. And dah terbukti based on scientific evidence yang the restrictive gene pool tu, kalau you kahwin yang close, bukan distant relationship ni, close relationship ni, kita punya gene tu kadang-kadang terkena gene yang lemah tu, right? Saya tak berapa nak ni sangat lah sebab bukan bidang saya kan, genetic diversity, but in general, okay, it is advisable to have bigger gene pool than restrictive gene pool, okay? Alright, so this is an example of genetic diversity. Kat Malaysia kita tak jumpa lah jagung yang pelik-pelik macam ni kan. Kita selalu tengok jagung yang kuning tu yang biasa. And then if you go to Cameron Highland, you might see that jagung yang jagung mutiara, jagung susu tu kan. Tapi dekat belah-belah bawah ni, it's common yang kita ada jagung biasa tu yang kuning tu. But if you go in different places, okay, in other places, there is corn kernels that is purple in colour. There is corn kernels that is reddish in colour. Kita tak ada kat sini sebab gene pool of our corn itu je. Kecuali kita ambil yang sana kita kacuk lah. Tapi yang kat sana tu, this is what we meant by genetic diversity. And then we have species diversity. What is species diversity? The number of species and abundance of each species in a given community. Student selalu dengar pasal species richness and species abundance, tapi sometimes they tend to get confused, okay, between species richness and species abundance. Richness is kekayaan, abundance tu kelimpahan. Okay, what is richness? Species richness is number of different species in a particular area. Number of different species, dia merujuk kepada species. And then for abundance, it is referring to number of individuals. Okay, number of individuals. Okay, contohnya kita ada kanak-kanak dekat padang 10 orang, and then kita ada lembu 5 ekor. So we have 2 species, am I right? Betul tak?
Ya.
Yeah. 2 species kan? Kita ada manusia, kita ada lembu. Kita ada 10 manusia, kita ada lembu. Okay, so when we are talking about species richness, maknanya kat kawasan tadi kat padang tu kita ada 2 species. 2 species ni is not rich, okay? Not rich enough. Tapi kalau satu lagi padang, dia ada lembu, dia ada kanak-kanak 10 orang, lepas tu dia ada belalang, lepas tu dia ada kambing pula makan, lepas tu dia ada ulat-ulat, ada banyak spesies, ada 10 spesies contohnya. That area is what we call an area which high species richness. So richness is referring to species, the number of species. Okay, tapi kalau abundance is referring to number of individuals, bilangan. Satu padang kita ada haiwan, kita ada lembu dan budak-budak. Total lembu 5, total kanak-kanak 10. So 13, 15. Alright. Satu lagi padang kita ada 10 spesies, yang kata ada belalang semua ni kan. Tapi setiap tu ada satu je. Okay. In that way, okay, in that sense, we can say that the abundance of padang yang banyak spesies tu is low. Kelimpahan dia rendah. Okay, walaupun richness dia tinggi. Okay, faham tak?
Faham.
So I have also ada example juga kat sini, nanti boleh tengok lah. Okay, so it's easier for you to understand. Richness is about species. Abundance is about individuals within that species. Okay, individual in each species. This is also another example lah untuk you tengok. Alright, and last but not least before we have a break is ecosystem diversity. This is referring to the variety of ecosystem found on Earth. Kita ada lots of different ecosystem. Okay, macam dulu you belajar pasal carbon cycle, belajar pasal phosphorus cycle, belajar pasal nitrogen cycle. That is actually referring to biogeochemical cycle within, in the ecosystem. Alright, so ecosystem diversity involve the interaction between biotic, okay, and also this is actually abiotic, between abiotic and biotic. Abiotic maksudnya non-living, biotic maksudnya living. Okay, abiotic, non-living. Non-living tu contohnya we have water, we have soils, we have air. Benda-benda tu benda tak hidup kan, air tak hidup, tanah tak hidup kan, udara tak hidup. So we call it abiotic or non-biotic. Then we have the biotic. Okay, the biotic component, benda-benda hidup, animals, plants and organism. So the relationship between these lainnya ada penyakit, dispersion, macam itulah. So the interaction between living and non-living component, ataupun dalam bahasa lain, the interaction between biotic and abiotic component is what makes up the ecosystem diversity. Okay, contoh-contoh ni dia lah. Coral reef ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem, peat swarm ecosystem. Okay, rainforest, mountain, banyak lagi lah. Mountain forest tu semua tu kan. So this is what we call ecosystem diversity, kepelbagaian ekosistem. Alright, ni contoh-contoh gambar yang dia ada. So let's have a few minutes break.